statement.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank all of you for being here. It's really a testament to how much we care about our public lands, that we have this level of interest. I'm looking forward to hearing everybody's comments, and I'm here to listen today. I also want to thank Commissioner Sealstead for moderating. I appreciate your help and for providing the room. As you know, Montanans feel really strongly about our public lands, and these are critical to our way of life. They're also central to the way Susan and I raised our kids. We spent most of our summers in the backcountry with our 4 kids that we raised in Bozeman, backpacking, hunting, fishing on our public lands. Each of you represent an organization that supports our public lands and understands their importance to Montana. We all want what we think is best for our public lands, but we have different ideas sometimes. And in the work I do back in Congress, I've always followed 3 core principles when it comes to public lands. One, public lands have to stay in public hands. Secondly, we should be working to increase public access to public lands. And thirdly, the voice of the local community is really critical, and we should trust in that voice to determine what policies we adopt related to public lands. I listen to our state legislature and county commissioners in the impacted counties of these wilderness study areas, and their message was clear. Congress needs to act because we've had public lands locked up for almost 40 years. Their message to me from the legislature and the county commissioners led me to introduce the Protect Public Use of Public Lands Act and also the Unlocking Public Lands Act in March of this year. Legislation is consistent with what I heard from state legislators, local leaders, and Montanans in these communities. The measures would restore public lands which the U.S. Forest Service and BLM have determined are not suitable for wilderness, to active management and back to the agencies to determine what the local communities determine is right. I remain committed to listening to all parties, all key stakeholders, and the public. And this listening session today is a continuation of that process that we started earlier this year. During a recent congressional hearing on the topic, I said, removing the one-size-fits-all restriction currently imposed by the outdated designation allows communities an opportunity to engage on the lands in a way that best serves their needs. This could mean more trails near one county or more grazing in another. For areas that are prone to wildfires, the plans can be tailored towards fire preparedness and insect resiliency. The point is that an outdated single-use mandate is not the Montana way. I'm committed to this statement, and this is why we're gathered here today. I want to better understand your perspective on these bills. And as I said, I'm here traveling the state and listening to feedback about these bills. One concern I've often heard involves what would come of these areas after the legislation becomes law. Many folks, including some of you, have suggested that I modify the legislation to explicitly guarantee a public process when the Forest Service and BLM are engaged to revise their land use plans for these areas. I think this is a good idea. I look for other good ideas today to make this legislation better. I've always believed that better is possible in all cases. So there are many proposals about what to do with these WSAs. From one position to release all of them, and another that would make them all wilderness. The legislation that I proposed doesn't really represent either extreme. It's really down the middle, and I want to hear how this legislation can be improved. As we've seen, legislation related to public lands can take years to complete. I'm committed to hearing all the stakeholders, and I will take your leadership to shape a better future for Montana's public lands, and I appreciate you all being here and look forward to hearing what you have to say. Clint.
So I'm Clint Loomis, and I'm represented as a resident, but I'm also a city commissioner. And as such, I would like to request that when going into a community, the city government is also part of the table discussion, sitting at the table. we recently had a commission meeting where the water, protecting the headwaters of Spring Creek was essential. And the Forest Service is working on it, etc. And you all know the timelines on this. But I do think that the city has a stake, not just because of the Spring Creek purity, but also recreation as Lewistown is changing, becoming more tourist oriented. We need to be able to define how this wilderness study area is being managed that positively affects our community economically and also through the water. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Salted. My name is Tim Ravendall, and I'm past president of Montana Multiple Use Association. I've been working on these issues probably as long as anyone in the background. I'm now here today as a reporter to help get the information out to the people what's being said. One of the things I've heard consistently is the talk of collaboration. And everyone across the table said, let's collaborate, let's move forward. What's missing in part of the puzzle, and we've been here, Conrad Burns had the same kind of field hearing when he was senator. We need to have coordination at the table, bringing local government and local people, having a true seat at the table. It was in our Multiple Use Sustained Yield Act, and it was taken out. We need to get that back in, the rules, so that we have that seat at the table. Representative White has been fighting to try to get that back in at the state level. We need to push that at the national. Last but not least, tort reform needs to be discussed, and it has to be part of your bill.
Thank you, Congressman Gianforte. Thank you, Commissioner. I just want to thank everybody. I think this was a really robust discussion. I just want to say thank you for participating today, and also thankful that we got some public input as well. I want to continue this process. I think it's important. You have my commitment as your voice back in Washington that I need to hear from all stakeholders before we take action. We have set up a input email, so if there are additional people in the public, I mentioned this specifically for those in the media that are here, if you can include it, we'd love to hear the input from more folks. It's Montana Public Lands, with an S, at mail.house.gov. This is a way for people to submit stuff formally into our office so we can hear it. If there are people in the audience that didn't have a chance to speak today, feel free to use that email address. I just look forward to continuing this dialogue. So thank you again.